We talked a lot in the beginning of the run about the potential for theater fans to discover Green Day and for Green Day fans to discover the theater. What do you think surprised each group the most about this new exposure? Perhaps you can speak for the Green Day fans, and you can speak for the theater fans.
I don't know. I mean, I think of all the stuff that's on Broadway right now, we definitely have the most bizarre line out the door for tickets. You know, it's two different kinds of blue hair going on. You know?
God bless them both.
You know, it's great. I remember seeing one showing, and you know, there was this woman that was older, and she was coming up to sit in front of me, and she like had her playbill, and she said, "Now this is about a rock band's album or something like that." And then, you know, and that was just, it was like great. You know, I love feeling like something new. I love feeling like a rookie and just learning, especially when it comes to, you know, things on stage, because I've spent so much time on you know, all different sizes of stages, you know, and this is just like another one. It's brand new for me, so it makes me feel young, and so there's a new crowd that's involved, and I think that they've intermingled pretty well, you know. I mean, there hasn't been any fistfights, no canes hitting,
not yet,
hitting anybody. So
stay tuned.
Yeah, a knife versus canes fight.
West Side Story redo.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that I get a huge kick out of is the Green Day fans who've come to see the show, and it's their first show that they've ever seen. And I thought, wow, you know, what a trip. If the first time you walk into a theater, what you see is American Idiot, you know, what does that say for what their next experiences will be? Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's very different from, like, you know, going to see, you know, Pippin or something for the first time, which was the first Broadway show I saw. And
so where does that audience go from here?
Well, I mean, in the big picture?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It seems like every 10 years there's a show that has rock music and everyone I keep hitting that. I'm so sorry. There's a show that is successful that has rock music in it, and everyone says, well, this is, you know, this is what it's going to be. It does feel like in recent years, and certainly since Spring Awakening, and up to American Idiot, there have been more than there used to be. And I do think the tipping point has shifted. I think that there are more people going to the theater now who grew up listening to rock and roll, and that's a very different world. What excites me about that is actually the historicity of it. Because if you look back... Oh, thank you.
That's a very 92nd Street Y word.
Right? I'm trying to stay true to the demographic whenever possible.
You're doing great.
I think that when you look back at the history of Broadway, and you look at Tin Pan Alley, and you know, this is your roots really, because he's Al Jolson reincarnated, I'm convinced. I'm convinced of it. The music that people would tell their stories with was the popular music of the day. Gershwin and Cole Porter and Rodgers and Hart and Rodgers and Hammerstein and Jerome Kern and, you know, and the list goes on, Irving Berlin. That's what people would go to the theater, they would watch some story, whether it was idiotic or not, they'd see a story, there would be these songs, they would go home, and they'd buy the sheet music and they would play those songs on their piano. They would hear those songs on the radio, recorded by their favorite singing stars of the time. They'd go to supper clubs. That was the music that they would hear. And something happened once rock and roll hit. And that became the popular music of the day. And it was no longer the music that you would hear on Broadway. Broadway sometimes tried to pretend to be rock and roll, and they would allow that influence in, but it was always a little ersatz. It never really felt like the real thing. So what we're finding now, and I certainly feel this at American Idiot, and I felt it at Spring Awakening, and I'm sure at Passing Strange they felt this way, and they'll continue to. Spider-Man may feel the same way, but whatever that ends up being.
With love.
But but here we are, and we've got the music that you want to listen to on your iPod, and that you listen to when you're driving up the Pacific Coast Highway on your radio or on the CD player in your car. That is the music that we're now really telling stories to on stage again, and our stories are living inside the music that you are writing and that you're communicating to a whole generation and generations at this point. So I think that's very cool, and I feel like we're actually coming full circle as opposed to going in some kind of weird different direction. Mm-hmm. And that I think is pretty great.